You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is November 13th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good afternoon. Going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. The Michigan City Redevelopment Commission regular meeting. Today is November 13th, 2023. First up, we've got the roll call. Ms. Dennis.
Present.
Ms. Nelson Deitch.
Present.
Mr. Barrett.
Here.
Mr. Domkowski. Mr. Warner.
Present.
And I am present as well. And we've got Attorney Cernick and Skylar York here joining us. First up, we've got the minutes from 10/10/23 executive session, as well as the hybrid regular meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from 10/10/23, our executive session and hybrid meeting, regular meeting.
I second the motion.
Go ahead and put it to a vote. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Barrett,
Aye.
Mr. Warner.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Next up, we've got the claims from November 13th. Skylar.
This is a claims for November 13th, 2023. In October of 2023, we had payroll, CDBG reimbursables, staff and commissioners. From the operating account, we had AIM, Redevelopment Association of Indiana, for 2023-2024 dues, Great America for copier fees for October and November of 2023, Office Depot for office supplies, Saranac Law Offices for a legal retainer for October of 2023. From our North TIF, we had Barnes and Thornburg for legal services in the North TIF ending in 9/30/23. Barnes and Thornburg for legal services, Bloxham Arbitration ending on 9/30/2023. We had Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for engineering services for Washington Park Boulevard, 9/1/23 through 9/30/23. DBT Holdings for Burnham Brewing Equipment final pay. Firm 70 for consulting services, Bloxham relocation, 7/17/23 through 10/27/23. General insurance for builder's risk insurance policy for the station block garage construction. Haas and Associates for engineering services for Lafayette Barker storm sewer modifications. Haas and Associates for civil engineering from 7/24/23 through 8/20/23. And Haas and Associates Civil Engineering Services for 9/18/2023 through 10/15/2023. Marcus Electric for bus shelter installation, partial pay out of the North TIF. Economic Development Corporation 2023 biannual pay to 1/4 North TIF. And NIPSCO for services, electric service for EV charging stations as of 10/6/23. Primera Engineers, street conversion on-call services, on-call engineering. Redwood Landscaping for landscape maintenance in the North TIF properties for September, October, November of 2023. Reprographic Arts for NICD temporary parking lot signs. Saranac Law Offices for legal services in the North TIF, October 2023. Wallach, Summers, and Haas for legal services, the Transit Center for 10/1/23 through 10/31/23. From the South TIF, we had DLZ Engineers for engineering services in the South TIF for the Connectivity Improvement Project. Economic Development Corporation 2023 biannual pay to 1/4 from the South TIF. Haas and Associates Engineering Services, South TIF Connectivity Improvement Project. Marcus Electric for bus shelter installation, partial pay from the South TIF. Redwood Landscape for landscaping maintenance in the South TIF properties, September, October, November 2023. Saranac Law Offices, Legal Services, South TIF, October 2023. From the East TIF, we had Economic Development Corporation for 2023 biannual to 1/4 from East TIF. And Northeast TIF, we had Economic Development Corporation for 2023 biannual pay to from a quarter of the Northeast TIF. And then from the Ohio Street Bond, we had U.S. Bank Requisition 43 for Baker Tilly arbitrage reporting period ending 3/13/2023.
Okay, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the claims.
I will second the motion.
Okay, first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move it to a vote. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Barrett,
Aye.
Mr. Warner,
Aye.
and I vote yes as well. Thank you. Next up, we've got the financial report.
This is the Michigan City Department of Redevelopment balance sheet for 9/30/2023. From cash, we have operating account $253,619.83. Southside TIF account, we have $8,057,579.33. Southside TIF debt reserve account, we have $336,308.50. From the Southside TIF capital account, we have $16,262.51. From the North End TIF account, we have $3,890,728.47. East Side TIF, we have $324,575.60. From the Northeast TIF account, we have $740,632.04. Loans receivable, we have County Business Loan Fund for $133,333.00 for total assets of $13,753,039.28.
I move we accept the financial report as presented.
Second.
In a first and a second, we'll go ahead and bring it to a vote here. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Barrett,
Aye.
Mr. Warner.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we've got a facade grant request for 607 Center Street.
I'm having this off to Associate Planner Kyle. I'll help out where I can. And then I do believe the owner is here as well. Kelly, good to see you. Tell us a little bit about it and what's going on.
Okay. Good evening, board. So I'm here in front of you guys to present the facade grant program for 607 Center Street. El Rue Development LLC is applying for the approval for the facade application with the property based upon staff's recommendation. It met the eligible requirements for the program. They are requesting a reimbursable for the forgivable loan of $30,000 for the removal and replacement of windows, doors, hardware, light fixtures, siding, and trim, as well as the replacement of damaged brick, paint removal, tuck pointing, and colorization wash treatment to match with the design for a total improvement cost of the exterior of $77,941. Although it's not located in the historic district, based upon what has been presented, it complies with the Michigan City zoning code design standards. The applicant has submitted all required documents, and the property is located directly adjoining the TIF district on Center Street. Although the property is not located in the TIF, it directly impacts the commercial values along the TIF district. We recommend approval of the facade grant, as it's located within the corridor of where other businesses are located. The improvements will also provide additional funds to the general fund in the form of added taxes because this building has been sitting vacant for over 20 years. This will provide the opportunity of turning a currently vacant building within the neighborhood into a functioning commercial space. Staff recommends approval as submitted of the requirements for funds.
So I can explain a little bit more about this. In the past, we have considered buildings that were directly adjacent to our TIF. And we've actually considered them further down than adjacent than our TIF. This one is directly adjacent to the TIF boundary on Center Street. Again, this building's set vacant for about probably over 20 years. You probably drive by it and don't even recognize it's there. The owner is here tonight. He has made some major investments into this. So we have set precedents where we've done this before. This is a commercial building. So we would recommend approval, but I would offer it up to the board to make that decision.
Where exactly is this?
So it's on Center Street, near Cool Runnings, right up the road. It's in between Doombillies and Cool Runnings.
Okay.
You probably drive by it and don't realize it's there because it's been covered up with overgrowth for a while. Yeah. I'm not talking bad about it, just saying that's what it is. So come up and tell us what they want to know. What you tell us a little bit about what you want to do, what it is, what the plan is.
Very much. My name's Kelly. Good to see you, Ken. My name's Kelly Newcomb. My partner and I, Steve Carson, I purchased the building 4 years ago. At that time, I knew it was a mess. We like to call it the hot mess. It's cooling off now because there's a lot of work that needed to be done. We replaced the foundation on both 54-foot walls. We had Tom Salat do that. We worked with Sue Downs and the inspection department. They've been with us. We walked the property before I bought it. We knew that, and nobody wanted to condemn that building. That building was condemnable, but we were hoping that something would happen. My parents used to own the old Newcomb Printing Building, and they did the work over there. When my dad passed away, I took care of him, and I wasn't living here at the time. I was down in Florida. I came back up to take care of him, and I get called an emotional decision. But as I told the story, I grew up in that neighborhood. I love what my dad did with those buildings and how he pulled them together. He had passed away. I saw this little building and I just said, here's an opportunity to do it again. The only difference is that I used to have him as being an iron worker and a builder, and me being a knowledge worker. That's what he wanted. I miss him not being here to tell me the things he could, because he was very knowledgeable and he had a very good rapport with the inspection department. And he told me all the time. And I just bring this up because I tell people who come on our site, because we got all kinds of people driving by and stopping by and saying, hey, can we come and do some work? And we've learned that there's contractors that aren't licensed, and we're like, all our stuff, all our paperwork is there because I know nothing and I want to do everything by the book, and that's how my father did it. Well, both Kyle and Sue have come by our place, walked through it, been in there, and we've actually got a documentation about from here to that wall of every time we do something, we take a picture, we're documenting. There's a lot here. We have an idea right now. I'm not saying this is a guarantee, but I will tell you that Canada Park has, as you know, a tremendous history. Canada Park has been, since the Pullman cars, and that history that's been there. And you can see some of that history still in our building. We have one of the original pictures of Jesus. That was the picture that was the iconic picture that was in most Salvation Armies at the time. So in the 1920s, this was a thrift store for the Salvation Army that they had for workers. So there's a whole point of history here. Right now, we're currently researching that history, because our idea is when you walk into the building, you are going to see Canada Park's history in our building. That's going to be the decor. And so when people come and get their coffees, and when people come and get their juices, and they get their grab-and-go grab-and-go food, and they'll be able to have a place to sit. Plus, we were blessed that we were able to put a rooftop deck on the 14 by 20 foot addition that we got for, and you can sit up there now. We just finished that, and we had Sue looked at it today a little bit, and you can sit up there and you can see Brummett Hill. No, Bismarck Hill. And if you know that hill and you know that a lot of people don't know the trails up there, but where we're at, that whole hill, unless they do something goofy, that's still going to be seen forever when people sit there. And on a regular basis, we have bucks and does going right up that hill while we're working on it. So we're real excited about doing this for the community. And when we saw that you guys had painted, oh, that was so cool. I mean, to us, you know, so we've had nothing but people stopping by. We can't wait. We can't wait. We can't wait. So anything you guys can help us with, we feel is a blessing. And that's what we have to share.
I will say I drove by this weekend and you tore off the front and that's a really cool facade underneath there. Yeah, it's really cool.
It's one of those things where everybody looks at it, even Tom Salat is excellent, the Mason guy, and he just looked at it and he goes, I don't know how they figured that out, but the way they used to do things 100 years ago, but it's still holding, it's still standing, and it's great condition. And so we're going to keep the original brick.
That's really cool. It's a really beautiful building.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. So, some sort of market, is that what your plans are?
Tell us what you're going to do
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
So the idea on this is we wanted to make it what you would call a flex space. So what does that flex space mean? What we did is we did a survey, which we're going to share with this group. We got 105 residents. We did an economic survey based upon what were the needs in the community. That's how we started, Mayor Angie. It was like community. We brought in a community development corporation. We set up meetings with the people in the community, met them at Dune Billy's, met them at Canada Park. And then we did a survey. We got 105 results that we're going to give back to you guys as a report. Is I think you guys will want to see some of this, but it talked about everything from taxes to assessments to what would be the things that people would want there that would serve them while they were there. Knowing that 40% or whatever is Airbnb, and how do we keep everybody in that area happy, because we're neighbors. We got all their feedback. So it was nice because our original variance and what the feedback we got up, because of the timing on this, they match pretty well. There's a couple things we're learning which might adjust it. And if that's the case, we'll come back and share that. Basically, what was accepted by the community that lines up with what we've got variance for is this. So I'm sorry about the big circle, but I just wanted to give the context. Ice cream, they love ice cream. Everybody loves ice cream, and I'm for that. Grab and go, good nutritional, high density nutritional grab and go. No junk food. This is not a convenience store. Will not be a convenience store. It's against what we believe in the community in general, as far as food deserts. We are in a food desert there, by the way. If you look on it based upon the requirements or the definitions thereof. We also want to make it accessible for people who, this is interesting, within about 150 feet, and you can do the demographics, the median income drops from $49,000 a year to about $114,000 to $140,000, depending on where you draw the lines. So there's a lot of disparities. So to be able to have people who on the other side of the bridge come in and have the community, it's going to be pretty cool and all that. So that is where the grab and go comes in. And then we have ice. There is no ice up here in this area. People want ice. Bike rentals was other part of the variance. So we've got that now tucked in there really nice. And then the last thing is juice as it relates to the convenience. And that's just like we're working with Milese Tucker and Nature's Cupboard and having her help us make it so we can set this up really nice for the community, make it affordable, and provide jobs. The last thing is, during Flex, we understand that there's downtime during the winter. The space opens up when you walk in and you look over to the right. The addition that you guys allowed us to have allows us to open that, flex that up. And I'm a yoga instructor. And so we're having yoga and Pilates there for small groups during the off season during that time. And that's what we got the approvals for, right? So that's what we got going on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Is that it? I guess that.
Other questions about it? Ken? Other questions?
No, I was going to move for approval.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Barrett?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you. We're gonna skip over number 7 today, and move on to number 8, request to utilize redevelopment owned property at 7th and Franklin for the Shelf Ice Brew Fest.
Hi, Justin Post, Michigan City Main Street Association. I worked with Kelly for years. She's a good friend of mine. There's no way I've got that energy. So I just want to let you know, I don't have a story. I think that we all know about the Shelf Ice Brew Fest. We've utilized the RDC lots there on 7th and Franklin for a few years now, ever since we got those blighted properties removed. And maybe different this year. What we're really asking is for the utilization of those properties for the week before. We have a music tent going on. We have had hatchet throwing in that area. We're talking about doing an artisan market in the event this year as well. And there's a possibility of doing like a concurrent event based on like liquor license rules that would have like liquor vendors instead of the beer vendors.
So like a distillery taste?
Distillery tasting outside of the main Shelf Ice event, like legally as the ATC is concerned, but still within our boundary as an event. Yeah. So there's no going back and forth between them with your beer and your liquor. It's something that we're just talking about. Honestly, ATC doesn't want to hear anything new like that. This is kind of a crazy idea to them, but so that may or may not happen. The reason why we request for a week in advance the use is for setup of tents, staging of things beforehand, and that's basically it. And then that will be inside the event.
Give us the dates of those.
I'm sorry, yes. 2/24/24 is the date of the event. So the week before, that would be the 17th through the 24th.
So 17th through 24th.
Yeah. We will do our very best to keep the grass from going. We've done that before. If there's too much snow, then we just can't set up there. We don't want to melt, have a bunch of mud and destroy the grass that Skylar's worked so hard at planting.
Yeah, worked so hard. Thanks. Okay. We would need Alan. I'm sure that they'll provide us the insurance, things of that nature.
Yeah, the same thing. You need to go to the Board of Public Works and approve them.
We've done that,
Okay.
and you guys are
There's the insurance.
included already on our certificates, but I can just get those to you.
Yeah.
The usual
Yeah.
years before.
Yeah, not to say that I knew it was a foregone conclusion, but we already added those as an
Yeah.
additional insured.
That's all good.
Well, great event that you guys put on. I think it's done very tastefully, and I'm not aware of any problems that have been associated at all. So great job.
Thanks.
And any further discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote here. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch. I guess we need a motion first, and then
Move to approve.
I'm moving fast today, guys. Sorry.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the request from Main Street for their Shelf Ice event.
I'll second this.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote on it now.
And just one thing, and for the record, that motion would include that they would have access to that starting on February 17th through February 25th, 2024.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Dennis.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you said the 25th. It is possible that we could leave it up until that Monday. Yeah, just in case, because sometimes it's hard for, depending on the weather.
It's weather, yeah, really.
Yeah, so we could extend that to the 26th.
That gets you through the Monday.
Yeah,
So the 17th through the 26th.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
So we've got an amended motion, right?
So will the insurance cover all those days?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, for us. Yeah. The event itself, yes, the event insurance covers the event. Nobody else will be working there. Our organizational insurance covers any work that we would have a contractor do during then, as far as I understand. So Yeah. If we need to amend our insurance certificates, then we very well will.
The dates will be on the insurance certificate in terms of the
Yes,
date
but
and
as
date.
it's event insurance, it's covering for the event itself. So I believe that we have a day forward and a day back. But if we need to, then you
But
can
you'll
let
need
me
to have
know. And
one,
I'll
yeah,
have,
because technically you're gonna have ownership of that property, if you will, for that 8 days. Ownership as a tenant,
I know.
but for 8 days. So yeah,
Yeah.
the insurance will have to be covered.
Okay.
I think that's the same.
That's something that we haven't done before, but yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
I'll talk to Charlie at GIS.
We need to amend the motion.
The motion would basically be to approve extending to the Main Street Association for the Shelf Ice Roof Fest for the period of time of February 17th through February 26th, 2024 for the actual event, and then setup and cleanup.
Isn't the 17th through the 26th include the setup and cleanup?
It
Yes.
does. Yes.
Okay. So I move that we approve the request from Main Street for the Shelf Ice event from February 17th through the 26th, 2024.
I will second that.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote now. Ms. Dennis.
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch.
Aye.
Mr. Barron.
Aye.
Mr. Warner.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
All right, up next, we've got the Economic Development Corporation report.
Yeah, I have Clarence Hulse with us tonight.
Welcome, Mr. Hulse.
Good evening, Clarence Hulse, EDCMC Director, 2 Caddis Park Plaza. Just here tonight to give you kind of a quick overview of some of the things we have been doing the last 2 years. And a little under the weather tonight, so I'll be brief. I have a presentation I want to give to you. You can look at the first page. Yeah, there you go. We have been partners the past 2 years, and so a lot of things we do are kind of behind the scenes, attending meetings, working with investors, developers. So a lot of times you guys don't see it until you have something in your hands to approve. So we kind of do a lot of behind the scenes work. And then when it gets to something else you can sink your teeth in, we bring it to you. So that's kind of how it tends to work. We also are involved with your bond counsel when you guys need to work on your bond, improve your bond ratings. We get the calls and we spend time on the phone with them to help them do all those type of things to make sure your bonds are A-rated. So we also work behind the scenes with your staff to do that. And we do a lot of work in marketing and really try to put the city's best foot forward. There's been a lot of naysayers in Michigan for a long time, so we've been trying to make sure people see the good things about Michigan City. This is really a great community, and a lot of people don't see that, but we've been trying to make sure people who live here see that, because that's why people are moving here, because it's a great community. So with that, we do a lot in the background. When the governor is here, we're here at the Double Track groundbreaking last year, when the head of the Tourism Bureau is here talking about tourism. We also attended their event. We also put ads in magazines. There's a number of Midwestern magazines, 13 states. So we make sure we do what we call it stories and talk about what's happening in Michigan City. We do probably four of those every year. But we try to make sure the story is being told about what's happening in Michigan City, because the more we can get the word out, the more people start making those phone calls. And so the good thing right now is people are calling us. And the stories are being picked up by other magazines and being rewritten. And so that's a good thing. Burnham Brewing, that's been like 5 years, 6 years in the making, still almost there. They're all trying to hire people. I think that they have 30 jobs right now. They're trying to hire to get started here soon. But in the pictures, we also try to make sure, we tell a story of what's happening in our community, because we have a great story. From, when I first got here, I remember everybody was mad with the TV reporter who said that we were hollowed out. So I'd like them to come back today and see us. So again, Heartland Real Magazine. We also made sure our stories are being told. We write stories and put it out there. So again, people here don't see that because obviously, if you don't read the magazine, you won't see the story. But it's been right in Chicago, Detroit, Kansas City, Missouri, Iowa. So it's the 13 states, 13 Midwestern states. So those are the people we go after. We're also part of the Chamber series of updated Chamber members. Again, some of our marketing materials. If you notice on the right corner, we have Michigan City redevelopment. You guys don't have a logo, so we kind of made one for you. So we use the city logo, and then on the bottom we put redevelopment. So that's what that is. Kind of a nice way to say, hey, thank you for being a partner with us. So we made sure all our ads and stuff have your logo on it. Vibrant Michigan City, your staff has been a major part of that. For those of you who are not aware, we had 2 national nonprofits here for almost 6 to 9 months. Brookings Institute and LISC, the national nonprofit. They'll do real estate development, they'll do loans, but they tend to do the big cities, the Chicagos, the Philadelphias, the Atlantas. So when we got a phone call that they want to come and do a playbook for us and help us move the community forward, we were very excited. So we were one of 3 cities in Indiana that was chosen. And so now we have a playbook that we want to actually get implemented. The great part about that is we have some funds from the opera to help with that. Number 2, we also competed as a community amongst 500 cities applied to get a fellow, somebody who was made the late career to come and advise you. And so we are one of 2 cities. We're partnered with Gary to do that. So we may have somebody here for 2.5 years to help us give us ideas on how to make this work. So we're excited again to be part of something that's national. So we are one of 500 cities. We're now down to 100, now down to 65. So we're almost there. So Power Breakfast earlier this year. First time we did that, it was a huge success. We oversold the event. We used money from that event to actually pay for any schools. For those of you who don't know where we pay for the kids to go to Chicago for trade shows. So we do the FabTech, the machining welding trade show. We do the air compressor trade show, and then next year we do the largest trade show in the country is in Chicago. So anybody who's involved in manufacturing, we do that. Just so you're aware, when we first started doing this, we had 1 bus. Now we got 6 buses, and 1 bus is all girls, and they all want to be engineers. So that's great. So sad, but it's a way to expose the students into what real world manufacturing looks like. Yeah, you can do all the classes, do all the lab, do all the math, but you get to walk down McCormick Center and actually see actual companies with the machining, the tools, and the product they make. Yeah, I think it's exciting for us to help them to do that. So all the funds for this we raise, it goes towards that. The Chautauqua, myself and Scholar is now part of a group in Chicago, and so the Latin Economic Society. So every year they have a field trip, and it's always been in Chicago, and they never left Chicago. So we're able to convince them to leave Chicago this year, and so they came to Michigan City, all 55, and they were just blown away. But that included architects, land development planners, attorneys in real estate, contractors, developers. Spent some time in Gary, but they finished the tour here in Michigan City. We started touring at the Uptown Social, walked downtown, and ended up at Shoreline Brewery. Some of you were there. From that trip, we've had about 12 post follow-ups with planners, investors coming to us. So again, that's another way for us to get the word out, host people, and talk about all the great things we have going on here. And they do come back. Again, putting stuff in the news. That was a feature last week in the Crane Chicago Business, talking about Michigan City moving forward. I hate the title, but the reason why it was done is because they're getting the people from Chicago who go to New Buffalo. That's why they use that title. Because, but I hate the title because, I personally believe that they've got nothing on us. So. But that's me. I'm biased. And then I spoke at the Urban Land Institute, and that's an international group that does land development real estate. They're global, and with a chapter in Indianapolis. So I was a speaker talking about what's happening here in the city. And again, from that, we had 4 phone calls. Now I got 3 developers looking at property in the city to do apartments and townhomes. So again, whenever we go out and present and talk about what's happening here, we do get bites. So for opportunities, of course, the Fifth and Pine, we're working behind the scenes to do an RFP. Hopefully next year that'll come to you guys. We see that as a key component moving forward for a mixed use, mixed income, but also supermarket site. We've talked to a number of supermarkets, and what they've told us, you need 2,000 people within half a mile. You have 2,000 people, we'll come. So we are trying to save this site, a portion of the site for that, because we think we'll have 2,000 people here within the next 3 years downtown, based on what we have in the pipeline in terms of apartments. We have about 1,000 units right now in the pipeline of multifamily. So the 1,000 units is roughly 2.5 people. So you're looking at probably 2,000 people plus. So we know we'll have it in 3 years, and so we want to make sure we have that as part of the mix, having a small urban supermarket, 20,000 to 30,000 square feet. In terms of marketing, you guys paid for a study about 2 years ago. We've talked to a number of people on this project, on this property, sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year, and then they fall off the map. So that's been our story. We've got one more right now who has actually put some money in the ground, and so we're hoping that end of the year they'll be able to close and then come to this board. But we know it's a long-term project, probably about 5 years once you start, and a lot of money, probably over $100 million to make it, to make it work. And of course, there are 3 owners, and 2 of the owners are working together. So we'll see. So knock on wood. Business park development. This is within the East Fifth. We have actually currently we're probably at least 1,000 real projects on these sites. We have people come to the city, walk the site, and they ask us when you're going to have water and sewer. And we couldn't give them a firm answer. So we've lost some great manufacturing projects because of not having water and sewer on Highway 20. So I know the city council approved the dollars earlier this year. And so I'm hoping by the end of spring or end of summer, we'll have the water and sewer lines in. And so we will be able to have some industrial projects that this board can approve. Just keep in mind, we're getting a lot of calls right now for 100,000 square feet, 200,000 square feet, because of the electronic vehicle plant that's being built in Carlisle. All the suppliers are looking for a place nearby to move to. So we're getting the suppliers looking to move to Michigan City. I need to get the water and sewer lines in ASAP. So, but we're getting called right now for acreage and building, but we don't have it. So, as a matter of fact, we've sold all our empty buildings. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, there's a ribbon cutting for the old JF plant over at the company from Michigan bought it. And of course, the Federal Mall been bought. And so, so all our large buildings are spoken for. So for challenges for the future, the next 3 years, of course, public safety is always on top of mind. We got to change that narrative here soon. New industrial buildings, we've talked about, Skylar have talked about possible spec building, and getting one built next year, or starting next year. Getting utilities on Highway 20 is key moving forward. And then coming with an annexation plan, the one that will show us what are the best places to annex right away the next 5 years, the next 2 years. And then attracting talent and developing talent here locally. Everybody is saying we don't have people. That's why a lot of the restaurants right now have shorter hours because they can't find people. So a lot of the businesses are saying the same thing. Manufacturers can't find people. So we know we have to build the apartments, build the housing, and then eventually have people move here. And then of course, people who are here who need a skill, get them upskilled. The prison, it presents a great opportunity in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, when that closes out, that's over 100 acres within 1,000 yards of a national park. So it'll be prime property for development in the future, whether it's housing and mixed use, or I can see a lot of houses being built there, multifamily type. And then, of course, single family. We have the first subdivision being built on the south side of the city. Again, more housing for a community. And then affordable workforce market rate. And of course, what I don't have here is a NIPSCO tower. When that goes away, it's 5 years when they turn out the lights, but it could be another 10, 15 years to clean up. So, but that's another great opportunity. 120 acres on the waterfront, and of course, the Brookings Lakes Small City Lab, working over the next 3 years to get a lot of what the curator wanted to be implemented. And those areas surround the TIF, kind of a horseshoe shape, west side, midtown, east side. So all those things affect the TIF and will enhance the TIF if we do a great job around the TIF. So questions, comments?
Thank you, Clarence.
Thank you.
I know that I couldn't do. I would have a hard time keeping up with all the things I do without you. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Clarence. Great job on the cranes article as well. I agree with your sentiment. We're much better than New Buffalo, but hey, anyway, congratulations on that. And any other further comments, questions?
And I would just like to say that, over the last couple of years that I've been on the redevelopment commission and all of the opportunities I've had to go to conferences, I met the former mayor of Jeffersonville, and nothing but good things to say about Clarence and how lucky we are to have someone of this caliber that people have been trying to steal. But I think Clarence understands what's on the horizon for Michigan City. And that's why he's here. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot at these conferences and meeting different people, just understanding what development actually is, community development and housing and tax credits and things that I could have never thought I would even be able to verbalize. So I appreciate everything that the EDC does for Michigan City. And I think people don't realize the time it takes for these projects to actually make it to the table. And that is, I think the hardest part for the community to understand is that it doesn't happen overnight. It can happen anywhere from 2-3 years to 10 years for something to happen. And I think we need to do better in communicating that to the community so they understand where they fall in the process and feeling like they're a part of it, because it does take time. And I know people want it fast, but development isn't fast. So I appreciate that.
We had, I sent you over the weekend a proposed consulting agreement with the EDC. And I don't know if we want to take this up now or we want to take it up.
No, it makes sense to probably fall in line with this next here. Go ahead.
We have 2 years ago, I believe the 2 years ago, we came up with this consulting agreement with the idea of exactly what Skylar was saying, is that we needed somebody to really go out and recruit, somebody to market, and somebody to kind of almost serve as a buffer, so that the only projects that were being brought to the redevelopment commission were truly bona fide projects, not just some pie in the sky stuff. And Clarence does an excellent job of doing that. Was one of the main reasons for having that consulting agreement. That agreement expires at the end of December. Clarence has requested, Skylar has requested that we basically take the same agreement and increase it to 3 years. So when I sent that to you, the only change, Tim pointed out a grammatical correct change that is only that, just enters 2 words into that on the phase, Exhibit A. Same terms that we had before, 2 annual payments of $37,500 for $75,000 a year. And it's the same if we get to a point of where either side feels that this is not a beneficial relationship, there is a 30-day notice to terminate, whether for cause or for convenience. So even though we say $75,000 a year for the next 3 years and a total cost of $225,000, I believe, it still has the same clause and the same escape, again, for EDC and or the commission with 30 days notice. Yeah. So that's what you have. That's what that agreement says. Everything else is basically the same from what it was from 2 years ago.
Okay, I just had a quick question on the time frame. So we're looking at a extension from a 2-year renewal to a 3-year. Any particular?
I believe mainly what it helps Clarence do is it helps him budget a little bit further out, so that he can budget for his staff. And I mean, that's pretty kind of.
We have to buy ads a year out for most parts, so we do things for 2-3 years out. So
Yeah.
And also the your campaign that you're doing, when does that end?
and this year,
Right.
So every 3 years we do a campaign. So we're almost with that right now. So
Mm-hmm.
All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we approve the contract with EDC for $225,000 to last for 3 years.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion? With that, we'll go ahead and open it up for a vote. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Barron,
Aye.
Mr. Warner.
Aye.
I vote yes as well. Thank you,
thank you
Clarence.
so much.
Can I add just a little bit more commentary?
Please.
So just so you guys know, what we do when the pay apps come in, we split that amongst all the TIFs, because I believe that what Clarence does kind of goes across all of our TIFs, actually, because he works with he works with both commercial and industrial users. So we just so you know kind of how we pay that, we split it amongst all of our TIFs. So that hence was reflected in your sheet today when I said a quarter from each. That's why it was like that, just for clarity.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Baker Tilly Annual TIF Report and Presentation.
Tonight we have Andy Mauser with us. Thank you, Mr. Mauser.
Come on down.
I look forward to this report every year, so thank you. It's always a good report.
Thank you for having me as always. And I did leave some copies up here. This meeting does have to be open to the public and the overlapping taxing units. So we always want to make sure there are copies available should anyone want to follow along. So again, Andy Mauser with Baker Tilly. Here really for your annual presentation, and it's really two-part. A number of years ago, the state put in a new requirement that says that each year, all redevelopment commissions in Indiana have to hold a meeting open to the public and the overlapping units to discuss the budget, the long-term plan, and the impacts of your TIF areas. So this has always kind of been our attempt to meet that requirement, but then also provide you with both a report and a presentation that hopefully are good documents as you plan, through this year and into 2024 as well. So you should have a copy of a PowerPoint presentation. I'll go through that here today. You should also have a copy of a bound report, essentially the same information. The report has just a bit more detail on the TIF calculations, some of your outstanding debt, things like that. So I will just go through this. Feel free to stop me with any questions as I go. But I'll start out on the fourth and fifth slides. So one thing that's a little bit different with your presentation this year, you may recall as part of the station block process back in July and August, you went through the process of amending your north side and your south side TIF areas. So those were actually consolidated from being standalone areas into what's now a single consolidated economic development area. And really, there were a couple other components to that, really kind of 4 different pieces of the actions you took in July and August, which I will talk about through the presentation. But, first one here is I talked through, the north side TIF. That's really kind of the north side allocation areas that are now part of your consolidated economic development area. So you'll continue to capture from your north side TIF as you always have, but those dollars can be more freely spent within this larger consolidated EDA going forward. But the important thing and the reason we keep them separated in the presentation, if you look at slide 5, we've got the history of your north side allocation area. All those components, those allocation areas that were created over the past, 3-4 decades, those will all maintain their original lifespans. They will all continue to capture. Again, the EDA just gives you more flexibility to spend within that entire area. So your north side area is the oldest TIF of the city, dates back actually to 1986. TIF areas over the years have had 3 different lifespans. Pre-1995, TIF areas were what were known as legacy TIF areas. This has a component that is a legacy TIF that will expire in 2040. 1995 to 2008 TIF areas have 30-year lifespan, so this does have a 30-year component as well. And then post 2008 TIF areas have 25-year lives, and so you've got a 25-year component to this one. So you can see this area will expire in 2027, 2040, and 2043. One thing we always do, and I like presenting this presentation at this point in the year, is there's typically it's a good time to gauge kind of where you ended up for 2022, where you are currently in 2023, and then now that the county's assessed or certified values for 2024, it gives us an idea of where your TIF areas may be next year as well. So your Northside TIF's been very healthy in the past. Looking back a few years, it was about $4 million per year is what it brought in 2019. It's continued to grow over the last couple of years. Really with the exception of 2022, when there was an appeal from Blue Chip, just kind of due to the pandemic and the closure, temporarily there. But for 2023, we're estimating about $4.4 million. Your collections through the spring were $2,220,000, so right at 50% for the year. Very healthy, and for an area this size, good to see that it's maintaining those strong collections. And then this area, we do anticipate slight growth for 2024, be from about 4.4 million to just shy of 4.5 million. That's based on the certified assessed values for next year, but we don't have tax rates, circuit breakers, so that number can fluctuate a bit. But your assessed values certainly are up a bit from 23 to 24. On slide 6, we do show the outstanding debt obligations. So you have 3 bonds outstanding from the Northside TIF. And these are all refundings of previous projects. So 2019 refunding of the original Lafayette Barker bonds, about 3.2 million outstanding on those through 2028. The 2021 Elston Grove refunding, about 2 million remaining through 2028 on those. And then the 2021 Wabash Street bonds, just under 2 million remaining through 2040. All your debt obligations are paid from TIF, but then backed by property taxes. That's just to get the highest bond rating on the bonds, the lowest interest rate, but you've never had to use that property tax backup, and we don't anticipate that you would need to. So you'll see that kind of same security on all the bonds as we go through those. So the next section talks about your Southside TIF area. Again, this is now part of the consolidated economic development area, so kind of in combination with the north side now going forward. The south side area really has 4 components. Going forward, it had 3, and then your actions in July and August actually added a 4th component to it, and that was really an expansion of the south side TIF to connect it to the north side in order to consolidate those 2. So it has a 1997 component with a 30-year life, a 2012 component with a 25-year life, a 2015 component with a 25-year life, and then the new 2023 expansion that will have a 25-year life, but that won't start until any debt obligations are issued. So we do anticipate with the station block financing that would start the 25-year clock. Again, this area has been growing over the last couple of years, was right around 3 million in 2019. For 2023, you're just shy of 3.3 million, and your collections through the spring were just over 1.7 million. So about 53% for the half year, which is very strong for the half year collections. And then for 2024, we do see potentially a slight dip. This area's, again, been growing. Assessed values were just slightly down in 24. But, again, this is an area that's shown growth in many years here in the past. So it should remain kind of in that same ballpark, about $3.2 million next year. On slide 9, we've got 3 debt obligations from the Southside TIF. You've got 2015 refunding bonds, refunding of the 400 North project, about 1.4 million outstanding on those through 2028. The 2018 Ohio Street bonds, about 6.2 million outstanding on those through 2039. And then also your 2019 double tracking bonds. So really already paid, a good 2/5 of those down. You've got about 3 million outstanding through 2028 on that financing. So now this year you've added a couple of additional components to the consolidated TIF outside of the kind of historical north side and south side. You now have what's known as the mixed use transit project allocation area. So this is really the single site that makes up the station block project. This area will have its own allocation area and then its own lifespan. So it was set up this year in 2023. It will have a 25-year life that will start with the issuance of any bonds, which we would anticipate with the station block financing. And then this one will collect TIF, but then it's also backed by developer guarantees from Flaherty and Collins on the project. The amount they've agreed to is $814,000 per year, starting in 2027 when the project's complete, first assessed, and then starts paying taxes. And then that $814,000 will increase by 2% per year going forward. So by the end, it should generate about $1.2 million per year. On slide 12, these bonds that you did approve this summer have not yet been issued, but are very close here on the horizon. We do anticipate about $19.7 million for the station block financing. That's actually down from what was approved through, we were able to obtain a debt service reserve surety, some other financing related costs that will drive that cost down a little bit. So we do anticipate about $19 million issuance that will be repaid through 2048. And then much like your other debt obligations, this will be backed with a property tax, but then you have the ability to use the mixed use transit TIF that we just discussed, and then also your north side and south side TIF areas. So we do anticipate that the station block TIF will pay a majority of the payments. You will tap into the north side and south side TIF a little bit to make those payments, but really it's anticipated that the north side and south side TIF would only be needed through 2039. And then from 2039 to 2047, that standalone TIF area should actually start to generate some surplus on top of the bond payments that you would have here with the new debt. So really kind of starts to generate additional surplus for you in the future. And then the last thing on slide 13 that your actions this summer did was add an additional expansion. So once the areas were consolidated, there was an additional expansion of the new consolidated area down East Michigan Boulevard. That area has a 25-year lifespan and we'll start kind of with those or with the issuance of the bonds as well. So I think the slide that kind of pulls the picture together for your consolidated TIF is on slide 14. And I know there's quite a few numbers here. What we've tried to do is show you so what we've tried to show you on the left side of the page is all your different TIF revenues that are coming in. So your north side TIF, again, generated about $4.4 million per year. Your south side TIF currently generating about $3.3 million. And then the new station block TIF that will start here in a few years. You can see you're currently bringing in about $7.7 million per year. That amount will grow to about $8.5 million once station block begins here in a couple of years. And then we'll start to decrease in the later years as portions of your TIF areas expire. And I would note that you'll see the large drop off in your north side and south side TIF after 2028. If you then look to the right half of the page, we show all your outstanding debt obligations. And you'll notice that four of the 6 debt obligations that are currently outstanding will actually all expire after 2027. So your debt, you've really got an extra year of TIF collections in 2028. And then your debt payments, decline in those later years as your TIF areas start to expire. So, those TIF expirations are something that's always been planned for and accounted for as you've issued and refunded debt in the past. And then, a conversation I know we had as we went through the approvals for station block. If you look to the very far right of this page, we do show your TIF coverage. We're showing, with an estimate for the station block financing, we're showing that your annual coverage should stay about 156%. So for every dollar of debt service, you've got about $1.55, $1.56 coming in revenue. And that's important, obviously, to provide that coverage on the bonds to make sure you don't ever have to levy that property tax, but then that's also the money you have to continue to do other projects. So I guess I'd pause there. That's certainly your most, complicated area. Any questions on kind of the consolidated and where it stands currently?
Andy, this might be a little premature to ask, but would we, once we start collecting from the Transit Development District, would we do that same? Would that show up on here as well? I'm sorry, I'm throwing you a curveball.
No, that's a great question. This page really is just based on what your existing areas capture, so we're not assuming any growth.
Would it show up, would it be kind of folded into this packet as well?
We certainly can. Yep. Yeah, as it starts to collect. And, I think that's important to highlight too. We're not assuming growth in here from your TIF areas or from the TDDs.
Yeah, we did the bond and we're not even considering the TDD and any of that into any of this. So it's kind of important. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, going forward, we're certainly happy, as the TDD starts to bring in revenues to kind of build that into this analysis and show you where you are going forward. And then just for each area, we have shown just additional future projects that you could consider. I know a lot of those are familiar projects, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. But slide 15, highlights some projects for the consolidated TIF in the future. And that does include the school technology grants as well. So the next section, we do talk about the Northeast TIF. This one, unlike the consolidated, has remained unchanged here in the last couple of years. It's actually remained very consistent. So on slide 17, just a little bit of history. This area was set up in 1999, has a 30-year life. It will expire in 2029. And then when it was set up in 99, there were bonds that were issued in 99 as well. Those bonds were paid off here a couple of years ago. So the TIFs, really become free here in the last couple of years. But the TIFs generated, pretty consistently a little over 300,000 per year, about 331,000 this year. Your collections were right at 165,000, so very healthy for the half year, and then should stay pretty consistent next year, right around 332,000. And then again on slide 18, just highlighting some future projects that can be paid from the north side, or the Northeast TIF. And then the last section, your East Side TIF, one of your newer TIF areas. On slide 20, this was set up in 2015, was the original portion of the area. And then you did expand this back in 2022. So it really has two components to it now. Both of those components have 25-year lives, but you've not issued debt. So those 25-year clocks have not started for the East Side TIF. And it's really started to grow here in the last couple of years, generating about 404,000. This year, your half-year collections were right around 188, so just under 50%, but still pretty strong for the area. And then assessed values in this area are up for 24, so it should increase from just over 400,000 to close to 500,000 next year. And then certainly something that could help with those infrastructure improvements, water and sewer, and any future needs in the industrial park. And then the last section. On slides 23 and 24, again, the third part of the annual requirement is to discuss any impact of your TIF areas. That can be a little bit hard to quantify, but what we've tried to show here is really kind of a graph showing what TIF looks like. Anytime a TIF allocation area is set up, you set a base assessed value, and then as that area grows, the green box, the incremental assessed value, that growth is what's captured. The goal of any TIF area is to capture that growth, reinvest in the TIF area, and then when the TIF gets to its expiration date, all that assessed value is returned back to the tax base. So you've got TIF areas that are really on all different points of this graph. We talked about those newer areas that were set up this summer. Those are really kind of here on the very left side where you've got a base. You're not generating anything yet, but hopefully in the next few years, you'll start to see growth. But really, I think where the positive impact from your TIF areas will come, and that'll be here in the very near future, is you do have areas that are at the very far right of this graph. So the north side TIF, a portion of the north side and a portion of the south side were set up in 97. Those areas will hit their 30-year lives and expire after 2028. And that represents almost $173 million of assessed value that will be returned back to the tax base from 2028 to 2029. The tax base of the city is right around 1.6 billion. So talking about, returning 173 million back on a $1.6 billion tax base, that's about 10.5% of your current tax base. So that should have positive benefits in driving down tax rates, circuit breakers, not only for the city, but for the other overlapping taxing units as well. And then the last slide, just something we've always looked at in the past and wanted to update this year. Kind of a hypothetical, but what if you were to end all your TIF areas today? What would that look like? You currently capture about $292 million of assessed value, which generates $8.5 million of TIF. If you were to take all of that assessed value and end your TIF areas, put that back in the tax base tomorrow, that would result in about a 44-cent reduction in the overlapping tax rates. So for the tax rates within Michigan City, you'd see a reduction from about $3.72 to about $3.28. But your TIF's currently being used to make debt payments, use it for other projects. So then to turn around and raise that same $8.5 million through a property tax levy on the city taxpayers, you'd be looking at about a 68-cent increase in the tax rate to raise that same $8.5 million. So by not doing it through the TIF and doing it through traditional taxing mechanisms, that'd be about a 24-cent increase in the overlapping tax rates. So I think from the city's perspective, really TIF is your most efficient tool to capture dollars, reinvest them, and then see that new growth that eventually will be returned back to the tax base. And you've traditionally used TIF for infrastructure improvements, things that would otherwise have to be funded through general obligation bonds or other direct levies of taxes on your taxpayers. So you continue to do that, and I think with maybe more of a focus on economic development with some of your projects now, but continue just to use TIF to reinvest in the city and see new growth. So with that, again, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions, comments? Just thank you for all your work that you're doing. I just had a quick question, I guess, personally, but you represent a variety of different municipalities, from my understanding. Where do we rate on, as far as, I'm just looking at your debt service coverage calculations. I mean, the fact that we're not utilizing projections to cover those. Can you speak to that at all? Or, compared to other municipalities?
Yeah, no, you're very, very healthy. Again, you're over 150% coverage with no growth assumed in there. There are communities that are much closer to 100% that maybe include, additional projects that, maybe aren't way out in the future, but are at least in the pipeline under construction, things like that. So, we see really all different levels of coverage. Kind of a common coverage threshold we'll see on a lot of new debt would be 125%, and you're again well above that. So I think you maintain very healthy TIF coverage and should stay that way going forward. So
further comments? I don't think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you, Andy, for coming. It's always good stuff to hear. I think it's just I think TIF is just the way that we prepare for the future. And then, when the 25 years is up, it all goes back, right? It goes back to their general fund. So, I don't know. It's a good tool, and I think you kind of summarize that on the back side of this, showing us what it would cost, And so anyways, thank you for all your work and helping me kind of analyze these things. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me as always. Thanks.
All right. Next up, we've got the station block updates and approvals. Is there anything to discuss?
Yes, we need to get approval of the lease for the Chrysler building. Yeah. So we have worked on, you may recall that we did a lease agreement, a use agreement for NICTE. When we took the facade down of the old station block and we stored it, but we also allowed NICTE to utilize the property as well for kind of a yard, if you will, for mobilization, things of that nature. Basically, it's the same thing. Flaherty and Collins, we would like to do that with Flaherty and Collins. It makes sense. Plus, you may recall that we have the facade now, restored facade inside the building. So we would like to, they will eventually have to grab that and place it on the new building. So
I sent you a copy of this on Friday. some minor, well, the only change that's really to that is just we're not doing it with Flaring Collins, but we're actually doing it with their corporate group of Michigan City Flaring FC LLC. That's the only changes to what I made from what I sent you last week.
Should we ask for approval pending just final review? Or are we ready to go?
We're ready to go. I talked to them. Yeah, we're ready to go.
Well, I move that we approve the lease agreement with Flaherty. It's with Flaherty and Collins for the Chrysler Building property.
I second the motion.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Barron?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, South TIF Connectivity Project.
Brad, you want to talk a little bit about the exciting things happening in the South TIF? I got you.
Brad Minnick, House and Associates. Not at the moment, no. So, asphalt paving was completed November 2nd. In front of Lowe's. Thank you, Alan, for your diligence there. That was right around 2 weeks between the time Alan greenlighted that and the paving was completed. So happy to have that done as the construction season draws to a close. The contractor pay request is under review. And I would field any questions about the project if there are any.
Was that a complete rebuild of the road?
No, it was not. Basically, with the extensive deterioration that we had out there, that was a stopgap measure, so it didn't unravel further over the winter months. And that cost was split between Board of Works funding and redevelopment funding. The work that was funded through redevelopment was pulled forward from the next phase. So that was a very small portion of what was paved a couple weeks ago. So
we also had some major failing in there of a sewer that had collapsed in there. It was pretty bad. There was a hole in there that would blow your tire out. It was pretty bad. I think we had to do something, so that's why we had to kind of up it forward to patch it. It was that bad.
Right. There was
and then we took the opportunity to correct the curvature there as well. At the corner of Luxburg and Thompson Drive, because what was happening was that the big trucks, as they're making that turn, they're looking at the cement median, concrete median. So Brad took a pretty large portion of that median out and then adjusted the curvature. Now they can make that curve better because they were destroying, and I think that's probably what was destroying the inlet there as well from them running over top of it. So it was a major failure there, and we've kind of took the opportunity to kind of correct that curvature and everything. So
will this have to be revisited in the near future?
No, not in the near future. We're going to get as much service life as we can out of that pavement structure and incorporate it as part of the next phase, right? So we're gonna stretch that as long as we can.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with it. Once we punch through, if you will, with the new road, do we have to revisit this one and rebuild the whole entire thing? This might get us some years of service life out of this, and then we can focus on kind of that extension. Is that kind of, I think that's kind of where you might be getting at. Yeah. Unfortunately, it was really bad, especially on the north side of Larkspur Lane. It was pretty much failing, or had failed essentially. So
Right, we had a visit from Menards folks, in October that didn't go favorably.
I'm gonna, what else, Brad? Anything else?
Like-
Sidewalks are in. We're good. So we're using them.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen them.
So, the contractor pay request is under review. So I anticipate having that, on next month's agenda for approval.
I think that's it.
Just one more thing, just to remind everybody why this happened the way it did. Back when the original strip mall was designed, for no apparent reason, that the roads that were in such disrepair were actually the owners were owned by Meyer and owned by Lowe's. And given the fact there's private ownership, you can't use public money to make repairs to the road. In fairness to Meyer and Lowe, before we began this process, they had no idea they owned the road, and they were looking at the city, what's wrong with you? Then as we continued on with the process, they were looking at, well, we'll repave it, but we'll get to it like in 2025. Well, that's too late. So net result ended up being, and we're still fine tuning everything, but ultimately those roads that were repaved, formerly owned by Meyer, formerly owned by Lowe's, will now become part of the city's inventory of public roadway, which has the corresponding impact on the state contribution for road repairs within Michigan City. So it's a win-win for everybody. That's what we got to. So.
And I would just add that I've initiated the addition of those segments, in addition to some of the roads with NDOT to their inventory. And to your point, I don't recall when the development was initially built, maybe 25 years ago, in that range. So we had effectively streets that were operating as city streets that we didn't have any investment in for 25 years. So.
With heavy traffic and buses and everything else. That's crazy.
I have to say this is one of the most positive things that has come up in the past few weeks that I'm aware of, at least public infrastructure support. So thank you.
If I might, I'm gonna bring up Sylvia. This kind of piggybacks into it. Sylvia, can you just come up for a minute and tell us a little bit about that way we can kind of get to this other, it kind of piggybacks into, you might have seen our new bus shelters we put out. And Sylvia's been working really hard on these. Keep in mind, this is our first round of shelters that we've put out in mass quantity. And we're finding it's always not, it sounds like it works out. They're beautiful, but we're always finding a tweak that we need to do.
So you have the photo of the bus shelters. Those are the exact bus shelters. They're just sat down in the exact places. They look just like that. That is the signage on the top. All of the pads have been poured thanks to the work of Brad and Marcus Electric. We have some other fine tuning that we're going to do for a few of the bus shelters to make sure that they're in compliance with the ADA statute, and that the bus shelters, the buses can pull up to them appropriately. So they're not completely finished. There's still a few things that we want to do, but as of now, they're out. The solar lights are working on some, and for the ones that aren't, we're getting those repaired. So the next portion, which we're just here today, just giving you a brief update of the, and thanking you all for the support and putting out these bus shelters. They look amazing. They are being utilized efficiently. People are in them. You ride past there, they light up. They're, important to the community. We have gotten great feedback from it. we have gotten a multitude of calls about the advertising, so hopefully that goes well. We want to move forward with adding a few amenities. We're still working on it. We want to make sure that they have mapping signs in there for the storage case that people can put information in, that the map routes can be in, and things of that nature. And we want to add a bike rack to a few of them that can assess it. But right now we want to finish up with the padding and the installation of the bus shelters, which will probably be completed before Thanksgiving, right? What do you think? Before Thanksgiving, just want to verify before I state that to the world. Before Thanksgiving, we do plan on having a ribbon cutting once we have a date set down with the transit department, Robin Tillman. We will have a ribbon cutting for all of the bus, well, not all of the bus shelters, just 2 of the bus shelters, but all of the other ones are available, as you know. And again, just thanking you all for the support. This is an important moment for individuals that ride transportation in the city of Middleton City.
The reason I kind of piggyback this in is that when we took over the roads on Town Center Drive, we actually had made sure that in our legal descriptions, we carved out space for future bus shelters in that road, because that would become basically the backbone of kind of if there were shelters there, they would deliver there. So that's kind of the future planning piece of that. So thank you.
No problem. If you have any questions, just feel free to reach out to me or reach out to Skylar.
Great, thank you. All right, next up, You Are Beautiful Solar updates.
At this point in time, we are in the process of reviewing the redevelopment agreement with our partners at Sola. We have met with them. I believe what they are doing right now is finalizing their review. We've had our review. Now we've handed it back to them. They're finalizing their review of the redevelopment agreement. They will be providing back feedback or agreement, I guess, with the RDA. And then we will, we may need to call a special meeting to approve that prior to our December 11th meeting. But if that was the case, I would let the board know and do that at the time when we find out. Other than that, we would hold off to our December 11th meeting.
Thank you. Next up, report from legal counsel.
Has already been covered, but I've got a couple of things. One is, as usual, there was an executive session immediately preceding this meeting. No items were discussed or were not permitted by the open door law, and no decisions were made. Second thing, as you may remember, I think last month when we first started doing the construction on the garage, the folks at Flaring Collins, when they started digging, they came up or were confronted by a lot of garbage structures, foundations, garbage underneath this, where they were digging where the garage is going to be. Unbeknownst to anybody, they've talked with NICD. NICD has indicated some kind of at least openness to discussing that. The cost of that is going to be somewhere around $65,000, which is a lot less expensive than had been anticipated. But Flaherty & Collins was talking with NICD about that in terms of getting that paid for through them. And finally, I think 3 meetings ago, shared with you that on our station block site when we acquired those properties, and we acquired them, and even though we didn't have to, we did clean up those properties. We did it in probably the most expensive way that could be done on cleaning up property, only because we were under the timeline and the time demands of the station block park property. And by that, I mean the most expensive way and the most thorough cleaning is you dig up all the contaminated dirt and you send it off-site for deposit. Included with all those contaminants, there were also other contaminants that were in the soil that required special handling on the receiving end. There ended up being a backlog on that. This happened, I want to say, in 2022. There was a backlog on that ended up extending into 2023. Nobody caught, particularly from August Mac, nobody caught the fact that we had to also give IDEM notice of that we had these stored contaminants on our property. in 2023, so that would trigger the necessity for another notice and another report being completed to IDEM. IDEM has turned around and said you're in violation, and they're trying to get, well, basically assess a fine against us to the tune of, I want to say, like $8,000. They've agreed that it'll be cut down for various reasons, and I think we're down to about $800. But quite frankly, it really, it's just not right. We have sunk over, I don't want to say sunk, we have paid slightly under $400,000 to clean up that site. And they will, and again, we were not required to do so. We were not under any kind of order on that point. There was no IDEM site. IDEM didn't even know that this was a contaminated workplace. We did it so as to prepare the property for conveyance to initially NICD, ultimately to Flaherty and Collins. So before my recommendation is, before we agree to have any kind of payment at any kind, I'm going to at least get our $825 worth, if that's what they're saying is the ultimate reason, because I want them to know, one, we didn't have to do it, and two, we spent roughly $390,000 cleaning it up. And in my thinking, that should mitigate damages. Now, we could fight this thing, but doggone it, it would cost a lot more to defend the action than the $800 that they're assessing. So we'll probably end up going ahead and paying that. But I'm going to still have one less. We will have a settlement conference. The deadline for that is Wednesday, at least getting it scheduled between now and Wednesday. There will be a settlement conference, and I'm just going to bring this up to IDEM with the request, don't ding us for a paper violation when in fact we've made this property valuable and we've cleaned up the health risk to the community. I don't think that'll make any difference, quite frankly, because you're dealing with a bunch of career bureaucrats who have no idea how the real world works. But I think, again, like I say, my goal is to get the thing dismissed. And if I can't get that, then at least I'll get her $800 worth. And other than that, that's really all I have. So Angie had given a report. I'm just going to hold off on doing anything with that until after we have the settlement conference. And then, and I'm going to tell them also that we can't approve this until we do it at a public meeting. So this will come up in December, no matter what.
Thank you, Alan. Public comments. Oh, I skipped over you again.
That's okay.
Once in a row.
Yeah, that's okay. My director's report, I'm just happy that we got our bus shelters in. They look nice. I've been working on that for, I think me and Robin Till, we've been talking about that for 7 years now, 8 years. So it's really been great. There's some, when Sylvia was talking about some minor tweaks, we're kind of learning as we go with this thing, because we've really never done a project like this. So bear with us. We do have money in budget. We have money in our budget left over, and we have money in our ARPA budget. So what we're going to do is make sure that these are ADA accessible, that they're accessible to our community, that the buses can get to them, etc. So just bear with us. And then the advertising, I think that's something that Robin's working on. Theoretically, the goal is that the advertising could support maintenance, purchases of future bus shelters, etc. That's kind of the idea behind the advertising, is that it would go back into transit so that they could fund more bus shelters, hopefully. Other than that, just try to working on SOLA, get the RDA done. There are still things we're doing with the transit block. So you may have seen today, they put up the fence. They're putting up fencing around the whole entire site today. They have removed all the sidewalk. They're prepping this basically prepping the ground for footings, which I think the footings go in next week. So, and then I've been informed that 1st of December, you will start seeing the superstructure go up, which will be the large precast concrete coming through the city. So that being said, there's a lot of things that are going to be happening. It's just been, again, like Angie said, it's very slow going for development and building of a building of this size. So just bear with us, and we'll get it done. Okay, take care.
Question, Skylar. What was the ADA issues for access to the bus shelters?
So with some of the shelters, we left a piece of grass in front of it, and we need to. Yeah, exactly. It's just a learning thing from us. And then it was just things like that kind of, in hindsight, like, oh yeah, it was kind of things like that. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, it really took us, I think the most important piece was getting them in before snowfall. That was really where we were trying to struggle to get them in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Skylar. I'll do my best not to skip over you next month. Public comments. On Zoom?
Yeah, this is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street. I want to add to what Brad Minnick said. I want to congratulate the Redevelopment Commission and give a big pat on the back and attaboy to our attorney, Alan Saranac, for finally getting that paving job there on Town Center Drive in front of Lowe's. I also want to extend my congratulations to the Redevelopment Commission that you don't have to hear people like me complain about that anymore. I want to add a little more about the bus shelters. I often visit much, much larger cities. They have much, much larger mass transit systems than ours. And a lot of their bus shelters, they have GPS readouts on. They're kind of like a digital screen, kind of like it is when you go to the airport. And all the bus, they have a GPS security system on there now. But they'll tell the passengers exactly down to the minute when that bus is going to arrive at the stop. And all the transit systems now have transit apps. You don't even, no more having to go to the controller's office and plug down your $20 to get your bus pass. It'll all be on your phone. And if you just want to pay $1, all you gotta do is just check your phone on the readout, and that'll pay your fare. No more cash. That's real convenient for everybody. I'd like to see that come in the near future. And just one little suggestion about your 5th and Pines, really, you got a supermarket going in. I'd just like to see something, have that cleaned up a little bit so it doesn't appear so Grayfield site looking. Other than that, I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you. Any further comment from the public in Zoom or in person? Hearing none, we've got the commissioner comments.
Yeah, I think I'm speaking on behalf of the whole commission in congratulating Angie on her election to be the next mayor of Michigan City. I believe you'll be the first African-American mayor and one of the few female mayors, and she won by a landslide, and she's always on top of everything that's going on. So I think we have great expectations for what you're going to do as mayor. So congratulations.
All right.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I'll echo that. Congratulations, Angie, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Next meeting date we've got set for December 11th, 2023. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
I'm sorry. I just like to say, as the board representative for the Board of School Trustees for the Michigan City Area Schools, we really appreciate the Michigan City Area Schools Technology Grant. And to see that it's going to be continued, I know is going to help the district. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for all the hard work you're doing over there as well. Appreciate the partnership. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.